political, cultural, religious, militant, terrorist, all kinds of combinations, which have maintained this anti-India posture. They have been encouraged by the Pakistani military for a very long time. But this is not surprising, Biplab. If you were to just survey American mainstream media over the last 30, 40 years, you will recollect that there was a time when the American mainstream media was very, very anti-Chinese. I recall as a young man reading mainstream American media that spoke about the yellow threat. But very soon after Nixon and Kissinger were able to create that breakthrough with Beijing, you see a gradual shift in terms of how the media portrays, quote unquote, an enemy country. The same thing is true of the American handling or the American media's projection of the former Soviet Union. So my submission is that with the improved political relationship between India and Pakistan, which strangely enough is reflected even as we speak, when the Mumbai operations were going on the evening of November 28th, the Indian Prime Minister was in a position to speak to his Pakistani counterpart and arrive at an agreement that the ISI would be called to Delhi for consultations about what has happened in Mumbai. Now, this is unprecedented. It has caused enormous angst in some parts of Pakistan. But I see this as a positive development. I mean, Pakistan television has also covered the Mumbai tragedy continuously, 24/7 for 3 days. And some of the commentary that I saw there was hopeful. You know, they are not looking at this from the same lens that we were used to for the last 25, 30 years. So my submission again is that, yes, there has been an anti-India orientation in Pakistan for a long time, but now gradually I think it is being seen in a more nuanced and in a more objective way. But this is still a very slim cross-section. I would urge people who are looking at your program to look at the editorials that have appeared in the mainstream in Pakistan and look at papers like the Dawn and the Daily Times in particular, which are the ones that I see, where you see a reflection of this candor within Pakistan about its ability to introspect about terrorism, the regional dimension, and what has happened in India over the last couple of decades. Biplab?
Yeah, that's good to hear from you. I think I would put up my last question. If not the last, I would say, I mean, the question is definitely endless, but I have to stop somewhere. I think the last question that definitely bothers us, which is probably an unpleasant question as well. Do you see the Indian leadership? I'll ask this question very point blank. Do you see the Indian leadership are willing to tackle the terror, or they are more interested in using this terrorism for their political purpose? I mean, what do you see at this point?
I'm afraid that the Indian track record of the last 30 years, and I go back to the time of Mrs. Indira Gandhi when she was Prime Minister, there has been a very cynical manipulation by the political spectrum of many issues related to national security and identity, quote unquote. There has been a prioritization of short-term electoral gains. For example, Mrs. Indira Gandhi and the way in which she handled Bhindranwale, which led to the terrorism in Punjab, is one example. Subsequently, what the BJP as a major party did prior to Babri Masjid is another example. And more recently, you see this constant attempt at trying to make national security issues like terrorism a political football. This is a trend that needs to be changed, and which is why I come back to my earlier point, saying that Bombay should encourage a special sitting of Parliament that will look at the entire experience this country has gone through and the need for a certain degree of political integrity and rectitude when we talk about the Indian democratic experience.
But isn't that too much to ask for? Because we heard that even Advani and our Prime Minister could not fly up to the same flight because of some conflict.
True, I agree. I mean, that is the sad part, but maybe that is also to do with the fact that the country is in the middle of very major elections in some of the important states. And in many ways, this is a run-up to the national election. Even as we speak today, Delhi is going for elections, and Delhi is going to be a very symbolic victory, whether for the BJP or the Congress. My plea as a citizen of India is that the political establishment has to rise above these petty considerations at a time when national security is being threatened in this manner.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us, and I try my best to convey your message, which has been very conclusive and very, I would say, very enlightening.